Well, hey friends, welcome today to Resilience with Rebecca. I am Rebecca, and I am sitting here with my guest today, and we're going to be having real conversations. We have conversations about real things, real life, and it's with real people. And so I'm looking forward to our talk today because I know my friend Jaimie here has a lot to offer. Let me introduce Jaimie. Jaimie is a business coach for coaches and consultants. She helps purpose driven experts turn their passion into a sustainable, profitable business. She spent 30 years in the corporate leadership and then she made a leap into entrepreneurship. Difficult to do, but so much fun, right, Jaimie?
Yep, yep.
And quickly discovered that passion alone does not build a business. Navigating the uncertainty, setbacks, and steep learning curve of starting over later in life became the defining chapter of resilience for her. Today, she helps coaches build clear, sustainable businesses so their work changing lives can also support their own. Welcome, Jaimie.
Thank you, Rebecca. Great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, you mentioned in your bio my favorite word, which is what our thing is about today, which is resilience. And
Yeah.
I love it when people throw that into their introduction
Mm.
because I'm like, ooh, my people.
Yeah. I think we can all relate to that word, right? I think we've all been through something or other, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those words that you're glad you have it, but wish you didn't need it.
Or I like to say like all the kind of setbacks have like prepared me, and also it forced me to be more innovative in what I do. So had it all been a success journey, it wouldn't I wouldn't have a story to tell, and I wouldn't have what I have now. It just forced me to get more creative and innovative. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. That's a
Yeah.
great way to look at it. Well, speaking of what forced you to become more innovative and creative, are you willing to share maybe a story that you were able to build resilience and use it for your?
Definitely. I have many stories, but I'll give you the one defining my business, really. So, why I started my business in the first place, it wasn't on my radar at all. I didn't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body, at least I thought. But back in 2008, 2009, so we're going back a ways, I lost my job. And
Mm,
my last job was actually working for my parents. So, how did that happen? How did I lose my job working for my parents? Well, back then when the economy turned, they had a furniture business and I worked for them. And the reason I went to work for them is because I had a son, and they said, you could work for us and bring your son to work. So I left corporate to go work for them, and I was able to bring my son to work, and I had all the perks of that. And fast forward 5 years, up to 2008, 2009. When the economy turned, they ended up losing their business. They had to file bankruptcy in the business, but they happily retired. They had made their money, and okay, time to transition into life, different part of life. I, on the other hand, was like, what do I do now? I have a 4-year-old. On top of that, my husband lost his job the same week I did. So the economy was really hurting in so many areas. And we ended up having to short sell our home. We got into one of those subprime mortgages that we didn't know we were getting into, but we were, led into that, misled into that. I had to file for bankruptcy in order to short sell the home. My car was repossessed. I mean, everything that could go wrong was going wrong.
mm,
And I consulted with a career coach because I really didn't know what to do next. I was like, there's no jobs, none to be had. My husband also, no jobs. And so this career coach suggested that I become a virtual assistant. And I'd only heard that word from a friend of mine about 3 years prior to that. She called me at work one day and said, I think you should be a virtual assistant. I said, I don't even know what that is. And I'm happy working with my parents and I'm good. So I'll just tuck that in the back of my, she said, I think you'd be really good at that from my corporate background. And so then here, this fast forward, this career coach is suggesting that very term to me. And in
mm.
those days, nobody even knew what a virtual assistant was, believe it or not. Now everybody has one, everybody knows what that is. But I found myself trying to figure out how I can explain to people what I do, and why they should hire me when they could get a VA in the Philippines for, pennies, really. So that was a challenge in itself. But I was determined. I was like, you talk about resilience. My husband says I'm very resourceful. And I just put my head down. I was like, I love that. It spoke to me. And I was so excited. I had a website up within 2 weeks.
Well,
And I launched my business. And my first client was actually that friend that she suggested I become a virtual assistant. She was a coach. She referred other coaches to me. I spent 4.5 years really struggling to build that business. So I'm getting to this part in the story where, things kind of took a turn for me in that, um, like I said, determination, hard work, resilience, all of that stuff. I struggled for about 4.5 years in that business, but I had a goal and I finally met that goal. I felt like I was given a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle with no box top. But I figured out how to kind of put my puzzle pieces together. I invested in coaches. I invested in mastermind programs. You name it, I was there. I spent my days going to networking events, all of that.
Wow.
And I was able to reach my goal, my financial goal, my client, my capacity as far as how many clients I wanted to work with. And I did that. Then I started coaching other virtual assistants. That became a little side gig because I had people reaching out wanting to learn from me. I wrote a book. And in 2017, I actually transitioned away from being the implementer into teaching coaches exactly what steps they need to take, what puzzle pieces they need to put, and in what order. And so that's what I've been able to build. So,
Wow. Wow. Incredible journey.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, every little step and every little setback just forced me to get more creative in what I was doing, and I'm really proud of what I've created now. Yeah,
As you should be, as you should be. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
it's not. Everybody thinks it's going to be easy. I felt like if I just put up a website, people would just flock to it, and it didn't go that way at all. Yeah, right. If only. Yeah,
Oh, I was just hoping that you would say that was the answer.
I know, right? Yep. Nobody even knows you have a website,
Right,
really.
right. Well, I heard
Yeah,
Maxwell say you have it's twice as hard as you think and takes twice as long and costs twice as much. And I've re-implemented that and said it's 10 times harder than you think, 10 times
yeah,
costlier than you think, and 10 takes 10 times longer. But
yeah,
just keep at it. And I tell you that just that it does bring something out in you that
yeah.
causes you to I don't know from hearing your story I'm thinking I could just see you just like the more you got the harder it got the more you dug your feet in
Yeah.
and hung on because you were willing to do what needed to be done to make it a success and you've done that.
Yeah, thank you. I was not willing to go back out and get a job. I'm still not. Like that's never going to happen. I'm going to retire to this business. I love it. And it becomes a hobby. So you're talking about turning that passion, like passion into profit and all of that, all of those like buzzwords, but it's so true. And so I look at my business as a fun hobby that I get paid for. And I love waking up in the morning and I can't wait to get to my desk. And it's hard for me to shut down at night and on the weekends, but um, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but you're right, it is hard, and especially if you're trying to go it alone. It's a very isolating experience to try to build a business on your own. You feel like you're alone, you might jump into a Zoom here and there, but it
Mhm.
really is ultimately it's you and your computer. And you got to figure out how to turn that into, paying clients. How does that happen?
Right.
And I know people talk about, well, I post on LinkedIn and I post and I post, but it's not really doing the thing. And
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of reasons and a lot of strategy around that. It's not just
Right.
about posting. So yeah.
Right. The behind the scenes work is what gets you. It's the
Yeah,
what you don't see on the social media post, when they're sitting with their family on the beach in Hawaii. You don't see the the years before. I think
that's right.
I heard The Rock say, he people want to have his muscles, but they don't want to do the how many years of, you
That's
know,
right.
bodybuilding or whatever it took to get him there and all the
Yeah.
work it took to get known to be who he is today. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no such thing as overnight success. And we
No,
all we all want to believe that. We all want to think that, oh, I could do the rock thing. I could do all of that. I could become my Mariah Carey, right? All that stuff. But Mariah Carey was a background singer for other singers for many, many, many years. It didn't happen for her overnight. And like you said, The Rock too. I mean, just name anybody who's famous in show business. They worked really hard to get there. And I never take that for granted when I see somebody. I always think, no, my husband goes, they all get lucky. No, they put the work in.
worked hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
We're only
thinking
seeing the benefits of that.
be The
Yeah.
Rock because of my eyebrows. I got to figure out how to do the eyebrow.
Yeah.
So
I
I
can't
can
do that either.
get some Nothing to
Yeah.
do with the hard work, just the eyebrows.
Yeah. Funny.
Well, I'm sure, Jaimie, as you were working through that 4 years that you mentioned, it really took you to
Yeah.
get onto your feet, that there were definitely moments where you felt like throwing in the towel or giving up.
Yeah.
So what anchored you instead of, because you obviously didn't give up. So
I
what
didn't
kept
give up. Well, I had a son who was 4 at the time. He's 21 now. So he's only known me as being an entrepreneur. I really was driven by, I loved the fact that I was able to be there for all of his things. When I was growing up, my mother was an out of the house working mom, and she wasn't available to me as much as I had wished. And so I said, when I have, and I have I only have one child, and I was an only child. And I just really was driven to, I want to be able to go to every sporting event. I was den leader at his Cub Scouts. I was on, I was baseball. I was volunteering. I was taking him on all of his field trips for school. I was involved, and
right?
to me, that meant a whole lot more to me. And I was driven to be able to have the life that I choose to live. I don't know what I would do if I had to go to work. I don't know how people do. I'm trying to remember myself in corporate. Like, how did I get life done? I love
Uh,
that I have a business and I can still get my life done. And I always say my business is just an extension of who I am. It just suits me now, and I can't go back. It would be the last thing I would ever want to do, and I have no designs to do that. Um, yeah, I think it was my son that really, really drove that for me.
yeah, yeah. The family is a strong force.
Yeah, I take time off when I want to. Have the benefit to do that. I'm taking off next week. I'm going to go see my cousin and my mom over in Sarasota. About a 3 hour drive for me, and that's fine. And I just block off my calendar. I don't have to go check in with my boss. I don't have to like put in for vacation time. I just block my calendar and I can go. I also have people that kind of do my consultations for me now, so I don't have to even be there for that. My business can still produce for me while I'm away. And that's a beautiful thing. People can still get my support even if I'm not there. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
invaluable. That is absolutely invaluable.
yeah.
Absolutely. So when you do find yourself kind of at that moment where you kind of are having like maybe more challenging season, or just facing something maybe new that you're starting in your business, because about entrepreneurship, it's not a one and done either.
No,
Constantly changing.
I love
Constant.
that you just said that.
What was that?
Yeah. I said, I love that you just said that because one of my favorite phrases to tell my clients, and I'll tell you, share with your audience, as you just said, there is no done in business. There's no done. We don't ever complete the to-do list.
Hmm.
There's no done. So just accept that, embrace it, love it, enjoy the journey. Like I am very organized. I love having a to-do list, a checklist, and I love completing it for the day. But I also love having the things that are snoozed. I get to them. Like it's all documented. I'll get to it. All the ideas that when you're an entrepreneur, you're creative all the time. You're thinking, thinking, thinking. So just embrace that and just love it. Don't shy away from it. But again, just remember there is no done. I know people that I meet with are, well, when I get clients, then I'll work with you. And I'm like, that's not the point. Like, enjoy the journey, but let me help you get there much quicker than you will on your own. And
Right.
then you can think of the next thing that you want to then do because there is not a done. But instead of struggling with the constant I need clients, I need clients, I need clients. Let's solve that problem and let's create something new that's creative, right? Yeah.
Right. How would you encourage somebody to enjoy that? Because when you're in the middle of, sometimes, I'm sending out emails, which is not my favorite thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
I'm sending out emails. I'm calling people that have been introduced to by other people. So it's an uncomfortable call.
Yeah.
I love doing it. I love meeting the new people and making these new connections and getting the referrals and all that. But sometimes there's some pretty uncomfortable moments where you're like, oh, by the way, I just popped into your inbox, a random stranger, just to say hi, you know.
Yeah.
How do you encourage people when they're struggling in those moments to kind of stay the course?
So I'm a big fan of like blocking time, as far as like how to kind of manage your tasks and enjoy them is like I don't actually start my day until I do about I'm going to say about 2 hours in the morning of just outreach,
Mhm.
connecting with people. Maybe I'm responding to emails. Maybe I'm outreaching to them to build a relationship. But I spend a good 2 hours and I set a timer. I'll set my little device. I won't say her name because she'll wake up and start talking to me. But I'll set my device and say, please set an alarm for 2 hours from now. And that's when I know, okay, that's done. Or I know it's coming, so I'm going to wrap that up and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. And I like having reminders, alarms that go off, even a stopwatch if you want, but just something that keeps you on task and then
Right.
let you move on to the next task and prioritizing. Like my to-do list that I use a service called Todoist. You guys could look it up. It's to-do list, but without the L, todoist.com. I love it because it helps you to prioritize your day. Red flag means top priority. Orange is like, my blue is all appointments that I've got. And then the white flag, it just means stuff I can do when I have time. And so if you kind of block yourself that way, it becomes a fun, almost like a challenge. Like there used to be a game show back when I was a kid called Beat the Clock,
Mhm.
right? So you try to beat the clock. You're like, let me see if I can get all this done. Let's see how much I can squeeze into 2 hours. And by the time the 2 hours is done, I feel so much better. I'm like, I have connected with a whole bunch of people, and that is seeded now. SEEDED, it's seeded for potential to grow. And I can move on with my day while that's kind of seeding over here and it's getting
Right.
watered, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so that's kind of how I roll with that, managing my blocking my time and making it fun. Like you said, sometimes it's kind of a dreaded thing, but if you just set a timer and just kind of bite the bullet and just do it and get it done and then just check off that and go, okay, next.
Right. Right. Well, going back to your 4 year timeline, you said 4 to 4.5 years it kind of took
Yeah.
you. So we'll just round it out to 4 years.
Yeah.
I know I would look at that from the outside and be like, that's a long time.
It
That was
was.
your child's lifetime, basically, at that point. When you started,
Yeah.
he was only 4 years.
Yeah.
By the
Yeah.
time you got it going, he was 8 or 9 years old.
That's right.
That's a
That's right.
long time.
It was.
We're in the middle of this. We're tasking. We're following all the tips and tools that people are giving us, but there's still so much disappointment because I'm not seeing it with my eyes.
Yeah.
You know.
Why it took me so long, if I were to assess it now, and I love the question because I'm just answering this just really off the cuff, no plan here, but I feel like I was kind of piecing it all together, like I said, a jigsaw puzzle, right? So I felt I didn't realize it until like as I sit here now and say this, um, nobody gave me the whole jigsaw puzzle in any way, shape, or form. I got like a piece. So it was all worth it. Like every piece I got just, came together and that was good. And so I think that's why it took me so long is I would implement one piece of the puzzle and then I go, I'm missing this other piece. Oh, now I realize I need that piece. Let me go buy that piece. Right. And I had to invest in that piece, right? It didn't just like, oh, the idea is going to come and I'm just going to go do it. I had to learn from somebody. I had to take their course. I had to take their program. I had to take their coaching, whatever that was. Um, and I feel like what I've created, I'm proud to say this, and I talk about this all the time, is that I feel like I created the path that I wish I had back then.
Mm,
Because what I feel like I've put together is all those puzzle pieces in the right order. So you're not just working like from the outside in or the inside out. You're kind of building in a succinct, consecutive way, if you will. So,
mhm.
like my program, it starts with clarity and then it goes into clients and then it goes into consistency. And so and there's steps within each of those phases that actually covers each of these like jigsaw puzzles, I'll say, the pieces that you need. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was 4 years of difficulty, but I actually didn't look at it as the struggle until I look back on it. Now I go, yeah, that was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was. But I had fun doing it. I really did. There's not a day in my business that I haven't fully enjoyed, honestly. There's been setbacks, but still love it. Still not giving up.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So how do you find because we were actually talking before this started, and I know I'm going to tell on you here, Jaimie. I know she's
Yeah.
going for a massage after we get done here.
Yeah.
So how do you balance the challenges of business, taking time to get a massage, spending time
Yeah.
with your son, building your marriage, whatever it is that we want to throw in there? Because
Yeah.
most people, I would say, have some kind of personal life, even if it doesn't look anything. Because
Yeah.
your life and my life look drastically different. You have one child, I
Yeah.
have four,
Yeah.
and it's just different.
Yeah.
And we have different types of businesses, and I
Yeah.
balance things one way, you balance things another. How would you encourage somebody to balance, or whatever the word is? Because I think balance is a myth. So I don't like that word, but let's
I
use
don't
it
like it
today.
either. Yeah. 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 Yeah, good question. And actually, what I would say is kind of very similar to the to-do list stuff. And I'm gonna, you can kind of tell I was a virtual assistant because I've got this organizational thing about myself. Like project management is a big thing. So I'm gonna say the same thing that I said about the to-do list and blocking time. Is your calendar is your best friend. So you get to say, now remember, we're all, if you're listening to this, I'm assuming that you're an entrepreneur of some kind. Maybe you're a coach. I don't know. I don't know exactly who your audience is completely, but I would, safe to say, I would think that we all own our own businesses. So, or we're attempting to. Maybe you're in the process of leaving a job, but calendar management is so important. So block the time that you need, right?
Mhm.
So I knew 3 weeks ago that I was going to be going to Sarasota to see my mother this week and my cousin. So she's flying, my cousin's flying in. My mother lives there. I was just over there a couple weeks ago visiting my mom for another reason. And now I'm going back, but I blocked my calendar weeks in advance so that nobody can book with me. And again, for me, I have somebody that does my consults now, so I don't need to be stressed out because that's, if I'm gone, I can't make sales. I'm not worried about that anymore. But for those of you who don't have like that kind of thing going on, it's still important just to, you say the word balance, and I don't love that word either, but finding time for yourself and what you like, what you enjoy, what, even doctor's appointment, we were talking about that too, like having to take time off for a doctor's visit, just block it on your calendar, just, everything just needs its, you need to compartmentalize. So I have a work calendar, but all my work calendar stuff is overlaid with my personal stuff.
Of
And
course.
so I make sure, like, I get a massage every month. I get my hair done every month. I get my nails done every few weeks. That all gets on my calendar. So I get to say how my life goes. So my business, again, it's an extension of who I am. And I want to live my life and I want to be an example to my clients, to anybody that I meet out in the world that, how do you do life? Well, you just do it. You just make sure that you take care of you. It's so important. Otherwise, what are we doing this for? I mean, there
Right.
was in those 4 years and even beyond that, I've been up at 2 in the morning working, if that's so, if I would rather do that where nobody's calling me, there's no emails popping in, I can work from 2 to 6 in the morning and maybe I'll go take a nap after that. And that was the other beautiful thing. Yeah, I'm up at 2 in the morning, but I'm trading that off because I can take a nap if I so want to, right? So, yeah, freedom,
A
balance,
big,
freedom. Yeah.
big proponent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you feel like that as you've gone through like learning all these things to build that life you were desired for yourself? And by the way, you know me, and I refer to that as your Wonder Woman life. Yeah. As you're building your Wonder Woman life, what part of you actually grew quieter and actually kind of just grew stronger in the quietness?
Okay, probably, I'm just off the cuff, I think probably less judgmental.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I think, because I meet with a lot of people who are, I don't want to say this and sound judgmental here, but I'm going to say it. So, they're stuck and they're not willing to get the help. Like they're not willing to invest to get the help, right? So, and I feel really bad about that because I want them to get the help. I
right.
know what it's like to struggle, and I always tell them my own story. I'm like, I've been there, and at the time, I had no money to invest in getting a coach. I didn't. I had an unemployment check. That's what I had, and so did my husband. That's all we had coming in. But I had a credit card in my desk drawer, and when it came down to getting a coach or getting somebody to help me, because like I said, I didn't have an entrepreneurial bone. I needed help. I knew that. I recognized that. I was willing to invest. So I'm always like kind of stunned when people are like, yeah, I'll hire you after I get clients. And I just want to save them the time because I have a lot of people who come back to me 2, 3 years later after I meet with them and they're like, I should have years ago. I wish I would have done that. But going back to kind of answering your question, so I have a lot of judgment around that clearly, and I'm really more focused now on like having more empathy around that because I know what that's like. So even like the person that I have on my team who does my consults now, I'm always like, We are not pressuring people. We are not, beating them up. We
Right.
need to let them experience life as they experience it. And if they come back, that's great. I just hope they come back sooner rather than later because I want them to have the help.
Right.
So I would say that that's probably something that's helped me is like taking down judgment around that, around other people. I still struggle with that a little bit just because I really want them to get the help. I'm stubborn like that. But yeah, probably a little less judgmental about people, just knowing what I've been through. Yeah.
Nice. So if you had to define the word resilience, we're kind of coming to a close here for
Yeah.
today's thing. But if you had to define resilience, how would you define it to make it personal to you?
Unstoppable. Just don't let anything get in your way. Keep your vision, hold on to your vision, work towards it, whatever you have to do. If you work with a coach or get some help in your business, fantastic. If you don't, just stay the course. Don't give up. Um, Keep going. I do talk to a lot of people who give up on their dream of being a coach, right? They tried. And then when I, circle back with them years later, they're like, I gave up. Try not to give up. There's people who need your help. So be unstoppable in helping them to get what they help people get what they. There was an old saying. I'm quoting somebody here. I can't remember. Maybe it's Zig Ziglar. I can't remember. But um, help people get what they want, and you'll get everything you want. That's paraphrased, I
Yep.
guess. But
Yep.
yeah, right. So just keep that in mind.
That they want, you'll get what you want.
Yes.
That's one
Yes.
of his most famous quotes. Big Zig
Yeah.
Ziglar fan.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, just stay the course on that. Believe that to your core. Yeah.
Unstoppable. I like that. That's one of those good words that you just kind of like can sink your teeth into. Love
Yeah,
it.
just barrel through it. Barrel through it, Yeah.
Well, Jaimie, as we close out today, I wanted to tell you thank you for coming on and for being my guest here on Resilience with Rebecca. It's been a lot of fun talking with you and hearing your journey. I mean, we've talked a little bit before, but I got a little bit deeper look into kind of what you've been through to get where you are today. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you for the invitation, Rebecca. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for listening to the show today. I am always looking for those little nuggets that my guests drop. So I know that if you heard something, a little gold nugget that Jaimie dropped here today, feel free to share this episode with somebody and let them know that there is hope out there. And remember, you're always much more resilient than you think. Have a great rest of your day, my friends.